We're live. Mics are hot, everybody. Facebook Live. First one I'm doing in a long time. And this is Conversations in Pop Culture. And I have Sam Johnson with me, who is the writer and creator of Geek Girl. You're also, I believe, the creator of The Almighties, as well as Voodoo Junkies. You might correct me on certain things and a few other comics. So welcome to this live cast.
Yeah. Is this showing up for me anywhere on Facebook where I can share it?
I actually don't know exactly how to do that.
Definitely showing up somewhere. Is there a way we can know that anyone is seeing this?
Oh, it's live. I can assure you that it's live.
But it's not on it. It's not showing up on your Facebook page.
It should be. We're live. Yeah. We're live, so no worries.
Can you see any? Can you get comments?
As soon as people comment.
But you have got like a comment box, because I've got nothing. I've got literally nothing except you at my end.
Yeah, that's how it should look. We're live, so we're live. It's all going up.
All
so
right.
Welcome. All right. Technical difficulties, but hey, that's what it's supposed to be. So welcome to the live cast, and I'm super excited to have you on.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a while there, Andrew.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, and I'm just going to fill everybody in on the details, I interviewed Sam a while ago when Geek Girl was just starting out, and was just starting out on Kickstarter. And so I kind of want to talk a little bit about that, because I don't know how many people know what Geek Girl is. You're on your 5th issue just came out, and the 6th one is coming out soon if it's not already out. So can you fill people in a little bit about Geek Girl?
Okay, so it's when you say the 5th issue, this is of the ongoing. So there'd been an issue 0, there'd been a mini series before that. So we've been going a while now, but the 5th issue is a really good jump on point, because to bring you up to speed, Ruby Kay is a hot, popular college chick that lands a pair of super tech glasses. Not used to the super strength and flight power she gives them. The initial impact of them is they make her super klutzy, knocking drinks over her cool kid girlfriend's dresses when she's trying to demonstrate the powers, alienating them, with the exception of her BFF Summer, who's into the whole superhero thing, kind of pushes her into becoming a superhero. Jokingly comes up with the name Geek Girl because of her klutzy actions. She's a fashion student, so she makes Ruby a costume. Ruby steps up, becomes a hero, saves her city of Maine, but in process of stopping Big Bad Lightning Storm, gets electrocuted, put in a coma. Summer fills in. Ruby comes out of coma. Summer steps up against the crime wave that's erupted after Lightning Storm trashing the police departments, hospitalizing superheroes. Geek Girl has now been offered a position to head up a new super team. So that brings you up to issue 5, if that's where you want to come in, which begins the new direction of Ruby as this part of a super team.
And so I want to unpack a little bit more before we get into where
that was pretty intense recap.
So Geek Girl is very indie. It's very much Kickstarter funded. Marcosi Comics, if I'm saying them correct, also have publishing components in it. And so what is that entire experience like to really be on that indie level? Because I think that's the future of comics.
Oh, well, it is if Diamond doesn't come back. Fingers crossed they will. It's good. I mean, the relationship I have with Marcosia is kind of specific to us, because Marcosia, they don't do single floppy issues. They only do digital. And then they do the collections in digital, but then in trade paperback. And to me, the format I enjoy most personally is the single issues. So even though that's not part of their kind of plan, we worked out a deal where basically still having the Marcosia logo on it, I would produce the single issues. They would put out the digital and the collection. So that's basically the relationship. The Kickstarter is entirely run by me, but it's supported by them. So it's a kind of a symbiotic relationship, I guess.
And so now we're going to jump into issue 5 and then issue 6, because a lot's going on. Obviously, Geek Girl and Summer are kind of heading up this entire superhero team, and this is starting to become much bigger than where it started in those first 5 issues, and even before. I think there's almost a mini series with Geek Girl. So What is that like to have a really expanding universe with your comic that you created and to it grow from a child into now a teenager? Because we're not into adulthood yet.
Okay, okay. Well, it's great. I mean, this is the Kickstarter that's running currently, that runs until the end of March. It's the fourth one. And I've had an aim with each Kickstarter. Now, the aim for this one has kind of been retooled slightly because you may have noticed there's other things going on. So I've scaled it down from what it was originally going to be. But with the previous one, I think it was the second, I've spent years building up the Geek Girl audience, going back to Geek Girl Zero, which was a much more low-key black and white affair with a different artist that came out back in 2009. But my aim with, as I say, I believe it was the second Kickstarter, was to get the audience big enough to justify this going ongoing. So we had the Zero, we had a 4-issue mini-series, and then we had 4 issues of what was either going to be another mini or an ongoing. My aim was to get the audience big enough to be ongoing, because then I can bring all these weird and wonderful ideas I've had for time that need an ongoing series to facilitate them. So we achieved that. We took it to the next level again with the third Kickstarter. So it's ongoing, and I've got these characters and concepts like Carbracini, Voodoo Junkie, Hitwoman that you were alluding to, who so far has appeared just in there was an anthology called If X by HM Comics that ran. And Carbra appeared annually in the Halloween issue of that in a story. But now she's going to be coming into the pages of Geek Girl. The ex-crack whore turned supernatural gun for hire. Carbracini, Voodoo Junkie, Hitwoman. And people dig the name.
And so even to talk about that, where can people even find those older comics? Because now that's coming into the Geek Girl universe, for lack of a better word. Where can people find your older work? Because that's some good stuff as well.
Yeah, I mean, those are going to be pretty hard to come by, I think. I don't think HM Comics is a thing anymore. If you want to see if there's any, if you can still get anything off them, it's !M Comics. If you Google that, if their site is still going, you can bring it up. But there were low print runs anyway. What you can still get is the first story that sets things up and actually has a character from Geek Girl in it, Mr. Mashup. You can get that as a free comic at Drive Through Comics. So if you put in, it's spelled Cabra and then Cini. There's a thing in there in one form or another, because this story has appeared in various incarnations, but it's the intro to Cabra, and you can get that as a free digital comic still.
And what is that like for you to be able to, despite some of your characters and your early works not being, I guess, published anymore, for lack of a better word, for you get to bring those characters into a new book that has a lot of fan support and has a lot of people interested in it and is ongoing, and that the characters never die? I mean, for those who don't know, I'm a big Osamu Tezuka fan, and he believes in reincarnation, and he constantly brings back his characters. So what is that like? Because that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Like, the thing is with Cabra is a more of a cult thing, I think, possibly than Geek Girl. So I wanted to bring her to a wider audience before releasing her actual series. So when I was writing these individual short stories for FX, they were always part of a picture that was going to be setting something else up. And the Carbracini mini-series is for the most part done, but I decided to hold back on it, bring her into Geek Girl first to give her more exposure, and then release the series. So there's big plans for her, but the arc in Geek Girl is going to be a big weird. I often reference my Grant Morrison Doom Patrol influences that played a huge part. I don't know if you saw the Doom Patrol TV show.
I have not seen it yet.
Okay.
I've
Well,
heard great things about it. Great things about it.
Absolutely. I couldn't have been much happier with it. Well, I haven't seen the last episode yet because it never came out here. It's only finally come out on DVD, but in the UK, that is. But yeah, that borrows heavily from the Grant Morrison stuff, which I'm really influenced by. So things like Carbracini wouldn't exist without that influence. And yeah, there's plenty more weirdness. We've got a brand new character coming in the new art. New art, which is what the the Kickstarter sort of sub name is Tights and Capes, where what happens is you mentioned about Ruby and Summer being a part of this super team. It's not actually Summer. I mean, Summer was filling in for Ruby. She borrowed the glasses because she felt guilty for pushing Ruby into being a superhero, and Ruby ended up in a coma as a result. So Summer filled in because all you need is the glasses and you've got the powers, but she wasn't great at it. So Summer is now back to just being Ruby's BFF. But with what happens with the super team thing, Johnny Carlisle, the guy putting it together, his wife's heavily pregnant. She gives birth early, and she's paranoid about him never being there. Is he having an affair? And he's, to set her mind at ease, he's like, right, no, absolutely not. I love you, and I'm now going to give you and the baby my full attention. So we're putting the super team thing on the shelf for the moment. However, the super team's already been assembled in this HQ. As their new home. So Summer has tagged along, and Ruby and Summer do what Summer and Ruby do in any downtime, which is go get drunk. So they go to an outlandish nightclub where everyone's in fancy dress. Ruby wants to go incognito, so she goes in a sort of black affair without any kind of association with Geek Girl. Summer loved being Geek Girl, so Summer gets to go as a gift from Ruby as in the Geek costume with the glasses and the powers again. Oh, and also the club night that they're going to is themed on, for Seinfeld fans, the Festivus. So you've got the feats of strength and the airing of grievances. So there's an extra thing there for Seinfeld fans, Seinfeld's my favorite sitcom.
So let's talk about that for a second, because this is what I love about comic artists. I just interviewed Sun, who I can't say her last name very well, and she loves Easter eggs in comics.
Right.
And so what is that like for you to throw an Easter egg into a comic book that some people will get, some people won't get, but it's really for you more than for the fans of the book?
Well, it's for me and for all fans of Seinfeld. I mean, it's not an Easter egg in such as it's hidden. This club night is billed as Festivus night, and that is it. That you've got the aluminum pole comes down at the start, descending from the ceiling, but because it's in this camp, outlandish, gay club, it's all like decorated with people pole dancing on it. And then, this is actually going to be integral to the plot, because the feats of strength part gets Summer to actually use those Geek Girl powers to everyone's, wow. And then the airing of grievances is Geek Girl Ruby Kay, having, as mentioned, had alienated her too cool for school girlfriends, but now that she's saved the city and become popular, they want to get back in. They like to be part of what's popular. So any underlying resentment there has been because of all this, Ruby's getting drunk, they're going to the airing of grievances. What could happen there?
Well, I think we're going to table that right there, and we're going to switch over to talk about the Kickstarter, because I don't want to ruin anything, because it already sounds like Gossip Girl meets Gilmore Girl meets superheroes, and it's going to be a blast to read it. I'm already stoked to see how the rest of the issue goes, because read the first 9 pages, pretty good. Interesting plot for sure. It's a good one to pick up, but I think this is perfect segue to talk about the Kickstarter. So what is going on with the Kickstarter? What are the perks? When is the deadline? And things like that.
So the Kickstarter is on now. GeekGirlComics.com would normally link to the Geek Girl site. I've set it up so it goes straight to the Kickstarter, so you haven't got to go Kickstarter/GeekGirl/107 exclamation mark so forth. So just GeekGirlComics.com. That's all you need. It'll take you there. As I say, the world we're in at the moment. I've retooled plans for it. My initial thing was there was you set a target with Kickstarter, you have to hit that or it's all or nothing. But my aim initially was to smash that and do stretch goals. And I found with what was going on, I wasn't particularly comfortable with, hard selling this and the sort of, tub thumping thing. I don't think that's the right expression. Drum banging thing of like, we've done that. Now make me some more money. So we dropped the stretch goals thing. we're going to do that another time. And it's something that is going to be really cool when we do it, because it's Jason Hare who's done the covers to issue 6 and 7, which you've seen the cover of issue 6 for, and put a lot into. And he's begun a limited print of Ruby and Harley Quinn, which what we'll do in a future Kickstarter is run that as if we get to a stretch goal, everyone that's back to limited variant will get that free. And then as the further stretch goals, you'll be able to vote on which characters you want to see team with Ruby, and Jason will add those to the print. So it'll be a really cool limited thing. But as I say, in the context we're in, I scaled it down. We want to get funded, not worry about any stretch goals. And as an incentive to getting funded, I'll show you what there is. There is an alternative to that.
Oh boy, exclusive time.
Because we've had previously this by Matt Olson, which is, again, Ruby and Harley. So a completely different image, but a limited print. So we're doing a few extras thrown in to kind of bump things up in the climate we're in. So first off, if you back anything, you now get a digital copy of Mark Darden's Guano Guy Zero. Now, Guano Guy is a somewhat mercenary superhero that's all about merchandising, who is another one that's in the running to be a part of Geek Girl's super team, but he's a more comedic affair. And so back anything, Guano Guy, issue 1, digital free. Also the Almighties, which is my comedy super team that, as you mentioned, co-created. Mike, if you listen, there's no legal issues, co-created with Mike Gagnon. And issue 0 of that, which introduces Joe Cyborg. If you, again, back anything, free digital copy. If you back one of the higher tier rewards, which is 23 up, you get that a limited edition. There's only 100 of those available. You get it in print, as well as the digital version, which is a different cover, as well as the Guano Guy, as well as the Harley Quinn and Geek Girl print. And you get, I've done this slightly the wrong way around because I'm now talking about the top tier, but basically anything, you get the 2 digital comics. Top tier, you get all 4 things. In between that, if you back anything that's got a limited or super limited comic in it, you get the 2 digital comics and you get the Harley and Ruby Quinn print. So a nice package if you want to get back in.
And I think this kind of segues into why we're sort of doing this. And full disclosure that obviously we have a crisis globally right now in the world with this virus, and it's spreading and it being very visible. And so and you answered some of this, but I'm just curious, how does this affect you on a personal level? How does it affect your creativity? How does it, obviously we spoke about the Kickstarter, but what is this like for you as an artist to be dealing with this crisis and really even the creation? Because Diamond is sort of shut down, but they're not shut down. And I know that doesn't affect the indie world, but it affects the comic world.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going through Diamond, it affects the indie world. I mean, it has a huge impact. But I understand it, and it's, like any other business, it's the priority is keeping people safe, and people aren't being safe if they're going into Diamond. So I get it. In terms of the overall thing, I'm okay. The only thing I work a part-time day job, and they were still wanting me in at that, which people were dropping like flies, basically, not necessarily getting ill, but if they, but had the potential to or whatever. So I was in until Monday, and it was very stressful. And then since Tuesday, I haven't been in. So I'm good. In terms of creativity, I don't really. I mean, you're conscious of it the whole time, but at the same time, there is escapism in entertainment. I do find if I'm watching like a TV show, it does take me out of it, and obviously comics can do that too. So yeah, with that in mind as well, I keep forgetting to say this, like though the new arc of Geek Girl issue 6 and 7 is still in the works with Carlos and the rest of the creative team, so it isn't going to be till August. Anything else that's backed on the Kickstarter, so anything from the miniseries up to issue 5 of the ongoing, you'll get in digital in April. So if you're still in your bunker you'll have that then. You won't have to wait till August for it. And also, if you originally, some Kickstarters always do this like combined package of digital and physical, which I don't entirely get. But in this context, if you backed or do back anything physical, up until issue 5, you'll get the digital free in April as well.
And I want to even talk a little bit more about just comics in general at this moment. Where how do you feel that, given we just spoke about the indie side, but how do you feel that the entire comic world is going to react to this? Because the entire pop culture world is on fire right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm a big wrestling fan. That's not a secret. WrestleMania is being taped, and that's a nightmare in its own right. I don't know if you're a big wrestling fan, but
I'm not. But I'm aware of the whole basically doing it without an audience.
And so, and they're taping it because they actually just shut down Orlando last night at 12 o'clock. Midnight.
Right.
Pretty scary stuff. So I'm just curious on a comic level how you feel that this is going to affect the industry. It's going to affect stories. It's going to affect production. You know, there's the collector side to the market. Cons are being shut down. So I'm just curious what your take is on all this and how fast do you think that once we get out of this, all this stuff's going to kind of be back up and running?
Well, I mean, it's, it is. We're in, to a degree, uncharted territory, so it's speculative to answer that. However, Chun-Lin Zhao, the colorist of Geek Girl, is in China, so they had it all before us. They got locked down before us, and having spoken to her, she says things are more or less getting back to normal for her. So that we're doing the right thing. Or the majority of the people, which will hopefully the majority will get bigger and bigger, which is to isolate. And that's the solution. You isolate, kill it, goes away, and things will get back to normal. I can't see any reason why not. As I say, China got it before us, and that's what's happening there.
And do you think that it's going to take, I know it's speculative, but how do you feel that companies like DC and Storyline and releasing, because, I mean, we're in the middle of Batman Punchline's entire epidemic, and everybody's up in arms about that. And so how do you feel like something like that's going to be affected? And I know there's stuff on the Marvel side as well with like just story releases.
So there's an epidemic. I'm not aware of this in the Batman, the Punchline thing. There's an epidemic story going on.
So there's a big, it's not an epidemic to the point where it's a virus, but like a big thing is happening. There's massive speculation, and like Punchline just came out as a character. And from Batman 89 to about 94, it's like this big hot arc. And now that's all thrown out of whack. So I'm just curious, as a comic writer and creator, what is your opinion on that? Because if I was writing it, I would be furious, given the entire circumstance of like just the release and even just on a speculative side.
I'm still not entirely making the connection. Sorry.
So I guess is that, how do you feel that comic companies are going to respond? So I'm not asking the question good, and this happens sometimes. I guess my question is that how do you feel that comic companies are going to respond to the fact that their entire production and release date is slower because a bunch of comic shops in the U.S. are shut down now? And how do you think that situation is going to be responded to on a more corporate level versus because I know you're in the indie scene, but you are a writer and you are a creator. So how do you think that like that's going to affect the industry as a whole?
Yeah, I mean everything and everyone is affected. I mean, I don't know if you've heard, but Boris Johnson, our Prime Minister, has got the coronavirus as of today. This has come about. I presume you probably have heard, because obviously it's very big news, and Prince Charles has it. So there's no escaping it unless you're in lockdown. Everything's affected. In terms of actual comics coming out, I'm not quite sure. The last I heard, Marvel, DC, Image, so forth, was still through Comixology, still coming out after Diamond as Frozen. I don't know if you know anything. I don't, whether that's still the case, whether anything's changed, whether Comixology are open for the foreseeable future. I don't know.
Yeah, I Diamond, from my understanding, is shut down. It might have just changed just recently, but I know that they're in an infinite shutdown for a while.
Yeah, Diamond are down, yeah.
And
but Comixology, I mean, if something is already in the can and is transferred to them digitally, then I can't see any problem with the books carrying on, you know. And as I say, the last I heard, they were carrying on beyond, I believe this is the last week of Diamond, is it?
I think yesterday was, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
quite scary. It's not fun, you know. I mean, I like my comics, and
yeah.
I like my local comic shop to survive too, and that's upsetting in its own right, you know. I don't know what the UK scene looks like, but in
The
America,
same, the same.
on the comic shop scene, but in America, it's like local comic shops are a big deal, and those things go down. It's not fun. It's not fun. But anyway, I do want to give you an opportunity to promote some of the stuff you have coming out because we got that Kickstarter. You know, we mentioned it already once, and I don't know if you have other things that you're pushing out currently, website, social media, where people can support you because support as a whole is not just Kickstarter, it's social media support, it's following on Twitter, following on Instagram, you know, sharing it, and all sorts of stuff. So you go through that list just so everybody knows where to find you.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm quite easy to find on Facebook. So I've got two Facebooks. So if you put in Sam Johnson and you've got friends that are into comics, which you probably have, I probably come up quite easily because of having mutual friends that are into comics. Because I've got loads of people. I've maxed out both of these Facebooks. So there's like 10,000 people on there almost. So I'm pretty easy to track down. Twitter is Sam Johnson, DA Sam Johnson. I'm not a district attorney. Ruby _K KAYE _ on Twitter as well. There's a Geek Girl Comic Facebook group. But yeah, I mean, the most important thing right now is right now, and that's getting the getting the Kickstarter funded. Because the thing with Kickstarter is, if you don't get your target, you get nothing. So as I say, I've scaled things down. I haven't had my foot on the pedal as much as I would have if I was a corporate bastard that didn't care about any of this. And if we weren't in this situation. So we're doing all right. I'd say we're fairly on track, but we need to get over the line or it doesn't get funded. And everyone that had ordered these comics, the time I've spent promoting it, the time I took off as holiday to promote it before all this kicked in, has been for naught. So we want to get it funded. So geekgirlcomics.com is the place to go. As I said, there's loads of entry points on the series. If you're new to it, issue 5 is a great jumping on point, but there's issue 1 of the ongoing is available. There's the trades of the mini and the first 4 of the ongoing. Very easy access, and as I say, we've incentivized it with however low or high you back, you get in those 2 digital comics, one of which has a key first appearance of this character, Joe Cyborg, who's actually already involved in Geek Girl, but behind the scenes, and is going to be coming into it with ties to existing characters, and is going to be playing an important role. So that's quite a cool thing to have, especially if you get the upper one with the limited to 100 limited variant. So yeah, that's geekgirlcomics.com, the Kickstarter. That's what it's all about right now. It only runs to the end of March, so we want to get that over the line.
Well, I think we're going to end there. I would like to thank you for being on this. Obviously, this is meant to promote as many people as possible because we're all in this together, and the wrestling community, the voice acting community, the cosplay community, and the comic community are all in this pop culture sphere. So thank you so much for being on. Guys, go support the Kickstarter. Go follow Sam on Twitter. Check out the website. Check out the Facebook. And there's no excuses anymore not to follow people on social media, and go enjoy their content and go consume it, because if you're stuck in your house for 2 weeks anyway, do something productive with your time, please. And this is one of the things you can do.